Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for talking to me today.
Thanks for having me, Gabby. It's my pleasure to be here.
So, when would you say you were first exposed or your first memory of drugs?
Very young in my age, fifth or sixth grade. And what I started using at that point in time was my dad used to make home brew. I used to make models, do models, cars, and I would sniff the glue from doing the models. And then it just led into more drugs.
And then what kind of drugs were those that you kind of experimented with?
I went from doing that to smoking pot, from smoking pot to using meth. I've used cocaine. Really, there wasn't. It'd be easier for me to say the drugs I didn't use because I used quite a bit and quite a bit of different things. I didn't have a drug of choice. My drug was basically yours and more.
So then with those, you kind of use those from you being 13 and then from then on?
Yes.
Did it get to like an everyday type thing, or how often were you using when it?
Well, of course. In school, you went to school Monday through Friday, and we used to party on the weekends. And for me, it got to be, I used every day. Not only the weekends, I took the weekends throughout the week. After school, I would use during school sometimes. And then after school, we'd get together with my buddies and we would get high or use whatever we were using at the time.
So then after you kind of graduated high school, did it get worse from there? Just kept using way more?
I used every day that ended in Y. It became a norm for me. It was my way of life. I never thought that I was ever an addict or had a drug problem.
And then how did that kind of start to affect your relationships and your careers going on?
Well, it tore up my relationships. I have a wonderful biological family. I have 3 sisters, 2 brothers. We're all close. We didn't have much when we were growing up, but we had each other. And that separated me from them because I never wanted them to see me coming down. It was all right when I was using because I was usually in an upbeat mood and I was feeling good. But I never wanted to be around them when I was coming down off of anything or out of anything. I was married for 5 years. Pretty much lost my marriage, my relationship to my wife over drugs. I have a daughter. I would use drugs over my daughter. Became that person I never wanted to be. I stole from my parents. I used drugs over my daughter, meaning that instead of taking her out to go do something, I would rather go with these other people I knew and get high.
So for you, when do you think you kind of hit rock bottom?
Wow. I hit a lot of rock bottoms. I've been to jail 3 or 4 times, 9 months at a stint. But my real rock bottom was the last time I went to jail.
And how's your experience there?
Jail, it sucks. Who wants to be someplace when you can't leave when you want to leave? I got punched in the mouth once when I was in jail. I had my lower teeth pushed through my lip. Somebody telling you when to get up, when to go to bed, when to eat, when to shower. Jail is just not a good experience.
So then what was your kind of defining moment that you realized you needed to change?
The last time I went to jail. I was running horses from here to New Mexico, and I made it as far as Guymon, Oklahoma. And we got pulled over, and I got a 6-month sentence there, and I spent 3 months in their county jail. And at that point in time, I'm thinking, I'm 56 years old. I got to do something different. I keep doing the same thing over and over. The old expression on what sanity is, doing the same thing and expecting different results. Well, I kept doing the same thing, so I kept getting the same results.
So how did you kind of start your recovery process?
Well, when I was in jail in Oklahoma, I talked to my daughter on the phone, and I've been to other treatment centers, and I thought, I need to go back and do this again. But when I surrendered to the program, I also surrendered to my higher power, who is Jesus Christ. And at that time, I came back. I got put in the treatment center at Mercy Franklin, and 3 weeks of going to treatment, I started doing Narcotics Anonymous.
And that's what you brought the book today?
This is our basic text of Narcotics Anonymous. I like to tell people this is my new Bible because this was written by addicts for addicts. And
So how does the 12-step program kind of work?
the 12-step program works. It's an inside-out program. It lets you know who you are, what you've done in the past, how you can change that. The 12 steps are set in order. You don't just go in and do 1 and 2 and skip down to 8 or 9. You do them in order because there's a reason. And that reason is it's fulfilling. It tells me who I am today, where I've came from, where I want to go, and it basically changes you from the inside out.
So is this kind of a program that you do once, or is it going to a continuous thing that you do for the rest of your life?
This is an ongoing thing. I'll never be recovered. I'll die with the disease of addiction, not from it. But it's an everyday ordeal, just like my active addiction. I live my addiction for the stuff I use. I live my life now, today, for recovery.
So since you started this program, I know that you have been going to the jails and talking to the inmates. What kind of started your idea to go do that, and how has it helped your recovery process?
Well, to go do that is because I came from there. So I couldn't go back to jail, or I couldn't go into a place and tell people the experience they had without experiencing it myself. So with all the time I've done in jail, and when I got into this program, we have a subcommittee called H&I, which is hospitals and institutions. And after you have a year clean, you can sign up and you get to go into the facilities. Well, I've been doing Polk County Jail for 4 years now. And how it's changed me is that when I go in there and talk to those guys that I'm talking to, that's as fresh as my addiction can get. You know, these people they're in jail. They've only been in there long enough. They can't come to a meeting until they've been in there for 60 days. So their head is a little bit clearer than when they went to jail. They're not pissed off as they were when they went to jail, because I don't think anybody's happy when they get arrested. And they help me stay clean by helping them.
So then how are you today, from all your past experiences, from everything from being so low to hitting rock bottom to how you kind of overcame all of that? How has that kind of changed how you are today?
Well, again, my higher power in the 12 steps. You can't just change on your own, because I tried quitting I don't know how many times in my active addiction, and I can't do this, but we can. And in the 12 steps of my program, the first 11 start with we. And in the 12th step, it says we in it. So I can't do this, but we can. So one addict helping another addict is without parallel. One addict can best understand and help another addict.
So then with all the people you've helped, is there kind of a story, or I know you probably have a ton of stories that you've kind of helped or seen a personal impact with, but is there one that you could share that kind of you've always kind of remembered that you have helped?
Well, today I have 3 sponsees. There's a young man that I sponsored that's a nurse, and he's overwhelming. He is so good in his recovery. He went in front of the nurses board and gave himself up. He told them that he's been using for 10 years in the emergency room, and he was taking the medication that they use on the patients, and he was using that. And this guy is phenomenal. He's got a 4-year-old girl and a 8-month-old little boy, and this guy has turned his life around. He's got the greatest message of recovery. He's like everybody else. Everybody that is in recovery today had to start somewhere, you know? And once you realize that you have a problem, which is the first big thing, is acceptance. You have to accept what you're doing, who you are, and how your life is. And once you know there's addictions come in many different varieties of different things, you know, there's a lot of things you can be addicted over.
So what kind of keeps you on the path to recovery, or a way that kind of keeps you going at the end of the day?
Well, it's my 12-step program. I have a sponsor. I call my sponsor at least 2 or 3 times a week, or every day if I need it. He's somebody that is kind of my mentor. He's been where I've been, and when I got clean, there's a lot of things, you know, I had to have help with and just everyday doing. Going grocery shopping, just the normal things a person would do during the day, mowing my lawn, doing my dishes, taking care of myself. This program, I'm not only a part of it, I live it. And I have to live this, because if I don't do this, the only thing left for me is jails, institutions, and death. And I've already did the jails and institutions, you know, and death is the last thing for me. You know, I won't die because of addiction. My addiction, I'll die with my addiction.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me, Gabby. Have a great day.